congressman from Minnesota's 1st District for 12 years, and now sharing his thoughts with us on the Al Travis Show. It's Congressman Gil Gutknecht.
Absolutely love having him on the show, bringing all the experience. He's got 12 years as a congressman. Congressman Gil Gutknecht. Sir, you travel a ton. You're not always here in Minnesota for the harshness of winter, which I went through this weekend. But that's good news, bad news. Between the Minnesota Vikings and the press that we in Minnesota got in the last 3-4 days, I presume the people you meet down wherever you go are ripping you like nobody's business about the state of Minnesota. What bad press did we get this weekend?
Well, first of all, I tell them I'm from Maine.
Just to help out, gotta do what you gotta do. I have never seen this. Let me throw it at you. The president does call our governor a name that I guess I don't even care to use here. I'm not trying to stick up for anything what he says, but he used a derogatory term for not being the smartest person in the world. Wall spends his time, I don't know, show me your MRI. I don't even know what the fight back was really concerning about, but he goes back with that. And at the same time, while those two are doing this, look at the shiny ball. Over here, I don't think I've seen a weekend where the ground has fallen out from under a DFLer so quick. New York Times comes out and talks about all the money that's being stolen and sent supposedly to Al-Shabaab, and a Minnesota Department of Human Services file, comes out, a Twitter account, saying they're talking for 400 employees of Minnesota, saying that it's all the governor's fault. This thing gets 37 million hits. That's 1 in 10 people actually read this. This is beyond viral. And all that happened in one weekend, and we'll even talk about what's coming up now as of yesterday. Have you seen anything like this?
Well, no, and hopefully we'll never see it again. I mean, you think about the scope. I mean, the U.S. attorney has said that it may well be billions with an S, okay? With that amount of money sloshing around, a lot of people had to know about this. Okay, that's one question, but you're sort of, how did this all boil up now? Yeah. And I think there are two factors that we need to be aware of that happened in the last week to 10 days. Number one, those two guys from the Manhattan Institute wrote that piece, and it really forced the New York Times to say, oh my gosh, we got to find out if any or all of this story is true. Yeah. And I think what they found was it was basically a true story. Okay, that's one thing that began to open up the floodgates, if you will.
Yep.
The second thing is, and I think this is a really important point, the FBI is expanding its search. And my sense is they have been talking to people inside the Department of Health and Human Services there in Minnesota. And when people start having to have meetings with FBI agents, they start to get really nervous. And I suspect, and it's just purely speculation, but if you begin to piece this all together, okay, why did these people write this, these 400 and some people, write this email where they basically said, hey, we reported this fraud and nobody did anything about it. And if you trace all the steps, they lead right up to the governor's office. Why did they do that? Well, my suspicion is they felt like they were being thrown under the bus. They were being interrogated by FBI agents, and they were afraid that they ultimately were going to be charged. And so they said, wait a second, we're not going to get rolled under this bus. And so I think that's how this whole avalanche started. And, if I were giving advice to the governor, it would be, you probably want to hire some lawyers, because this is going to end up on the governor's desk one way or the other, whether or not he will face charges. You have to understand that conspiracy covers a wide range of sins. And there are sins of omission, there are sins of commission, there are sins where you knew something was going on or were told that there was fraud. And I think that one of the most damning things that's in that email from the employees is that they knew that the cookie jar was being raided, and they continued to fill the cookie jar. That implies that they knew that money was being stolen, and it was government money, it was taxpayers' money, and yet they continued to fill the cookie jar. That is an incredibly damning comment. And I suspect that the FBI, the Department of the Treasury, the Justice Department, lots of people are going to be interested in that part of the story. And so when the New York Times turns on you, you're in big trouble if you're a Democrat.
Well, and this ex Twitter account, at first I'm like, okay, you never know who set up the account, if it's legit or not. But we had Representative Walter Hudson on yesterday, and he's on the fraud committee. And he said that he has chatted with many of these people that are in that account, if you will. They've come to the fraud committee and they've discussed it. There, he has other people he says that have, anonymously said, hey, this is all what's going on. I'm like, all right, there's something to it. As you keep watching people defend that letter, there are many people, I guess I can tell you I can trust, saying, no, this is legit. And then when it goes on national news, you're right. I believe the FBI has talked to these people. They shut that account down for a while, Elon Musk, Twitter, whatever, and they had to put it back up. This has gotten huge traction. I say 37 million views. With that kind, like you say, the Times comes after you. I presume, I'm just broadcasting here, most people that belong to the Minnesota Department of Health and Human Services Twitter account, I presume are Democrats. How do they go after, I guess we put, if you're losing that much support.
There. I would doubt that any of them were MAGA Trumpist Republicans, okay? Whether they were Democrats or independents or, moderate Republicans, they were not Trumpists, okay?
So my point is, if that holds true, and most people say, okay, you're right, Al, that kind of support going for a man who literally announced he's running for a third term of governor, that alone you'd think, now what? And it's this dying by 1,000 pinpricks. I mean, these are large pins. Today's story, sir, the Department of Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, he comes out and says that they're threatening to hold the $30 million that they give us for CDL licenses because supposedly 1/3 of all the CDL licenses in Minnesota are given to people who are here illegally. We've already seen all the people that, they're highlighting in the news, people who don't speak the language driving trucks in Florida and causing deaths. The same time, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says he is sending federal investigators in here to find out if any of this money went to Al-Shabaab. This doesn't stop. This is 2-3 more stories today on new stuff. I didn't know 1/3 of all CDL licenses in Minnesota are to illegal immigrants. Can he survive this? Can the governor survive this? Bing, 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 daily. It's like, you ever do that with your kid? my brother used to do that when he wanted me to. He just thumped my head a million times, so I told him whatever he wanted to hear. Your thoughts? Can he survive it?
No.
Wow. Okay, that's just that simple. You say, when you say no, let's go to the break on this because we've got plenty of talking there. When we go to break, I want you to tell me, when you say no to that question, which is the right answer, I think, is it no, he doesn't survive, he doesn't get to run? Is it no, he won't get reelected? Let's talk the other side, how this affects him, and when you're straight no. I love that answer. I just don't know if I know what you mean. We'll be back after this with more. I've got him, Congressman Gil Gutknecht.
When the stakes are high at the Minnesota
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts." But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
Yeah. Oh.
A as in alligator. L also in alligator. But it's not alligator. It's the Al Travis Show.
And we've got him. We've got him, Congressman Gil Gutknecht, on the program with us. I love the question, with all this going on in the state of Minnesota, and we are national news day in and day out, at least for the last 3 days, can Governor Walz survive this? And the answer was no. And I thought, wait a minute, do you mean he won't be able to keep running for governor? He'll have to withdraw, or he will lose the governor's race because of this. 11 months is a long time for people to remember this weekend. Are you saying he won't be able to continue running, or he won't win if he runs?
Well, let me start this way. I would say re-election is the least of his problems right now. I think he's got big problems. And from a political standpoint, there is blood in the water. I mean, there's lots of blood in the water, and the sharks are circling. And it's not just, every day a new Republican announces they're going to run for governor. But I think there are probably Democrats who, wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, and they see the next governor of the state of Minnesota. And I think he's wounded. And I don't think the wounds are going to heal between now and next November.
Let's talk a little bit. How far down would that go? Would you think the Attorney General as well? Who else would possibly be in trouble here? Commissioners, that sort of thing? I know the buck stops at the top, but how far down would other people be involved as far as trouble goes?
I think, if those, you have to, again, go back to the fact that these over 400 DHS employee or DHHS employees wrote this email. That tells me that they knew that there was a cover-up going on inside the department, and they don't want to be blamed for it. And so you have to think that their immediate superiors knew and covered up, and probably their superiors knew all about this and covered up. And it's hard to imagine that, the commissioners at some level didn't at least communicate some of this to the governor's office. Now, it may well be that his chief of staff is going to have to fall on his spear. I don't know how this all ultimately shakes out. But here's, I go back to this point. The fact that the FBI is investigating, and the fact that now the Treasury Department is investigating, and there's going to be an investigation by the House Government and Oversight Committee, all of a sudden you've got all these investigations, and you've got a whole lot of people who signed this email who are willing to talk. And nothing they're going to say is going to be helpful to this governor. And so whether you're talking about his legal problems or his political problems, I think his legal problems are much, much bigger today than his political problems. But one will ultimately, I think, resolve the other.
Well, let's just talk political for a second here, because we saw the whole Biden-Harris switch up, right? 107 days just, according to Kamala, ruined her chances. The Democratic Party is not going to want to do that. I presume with that story out of the New York Times, Walz's national money coming in is going to dry up, right? I just can't see somebody putting their big money behind what's going on here. So that dries up. Local money probably as well. if there's a Democrat, and the rumor has it could be Angie Craig or Dean Phillips, insert here, and we'll guarantee a slot. Do they see that as enticing? Yes, I can come in, my name isn't tarnished, and I can win Minnesota and keep it there. Will the Democratic Party pull this, and will Minnesotans deal with it? The Biden-Harris switcheroo. This is our guy until, wait a minute, we don't like this guy, and we'll slide somebody else in. Will Minnesota take that?
Well, obviously, I mean, I can't explain what Republicans do, let alone what Democrats might do.
That's fair enough.
But I do know this. I mean, and this is universally true in politics, Republicans or Democrats. I mean, it is ultimately about power. And I suspect that if Democratic leaders and donors in Minnesota begin to analyze this the way at least I see it, they're going to, say, wait a second, we cannot afford a bloodbath next November where we lose everything. I mean, they could literally lose the House, the Senate, the governor's office, all of the constitutional offices. They could lose it all over this scandal. I mean, look what happened to the Republicans after Watergate. I mean, they got decimated. So, I do think that at some point there will be a meeting and they'll discuss their fortunes and say, hey, is there another candidate? And somebody in the room is going to say there must be.
Yeah. The problem I have, and I completely agree with you, is how much the press will back whoever they say. Here's the story. The story today is that they're going to do investigations into the state of Minnesota. And the headline is, Walz can't wait for it. He accepts the help. He wants the help. And they quote him in there in the paper that he wants the help. But it doesn't mention the fact that even the paper, according to yesterday, has tried like 10 times to get information about stuff going on in human services, and they stonewalled them, gave them nothing. They don't say anything about the fact that the SNAP program, federal government asked for the SNAP data. Who's getting SNAP in Minnesota? And this governor said, no, you don't get that information. But the story today is he accepts the help. He wants it. Anything to help out. They can put lipstick on a pig pretty well, is all I'm saying. Can they run enough cover to get this guy or someone, like you say, instead of a landslide, get him through the finish line?
Well, I think, 10 years ago when the Star Tribune and WCCO dominated the national or the statewide media, they probably could have gotten away with it. But you've got so many different ways that people can get information today. The fact that this story really started on X, right?
That's
okay.
True.
It didn't start with an investigative report by the Star Tribune, which incidentally, I believe is largely responsible for containing this scandal as long as they did. I mean, if the Star Tribune had put some investigative reporters on this at the very beginning, this would have all come to light, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So, the media shares some responsibility. And let me add one other group that I think has a lot of responsibility. And the fact that the Treasury Department is now sending out some investigators, I think the banks that have been involved are really open to a whole lot of consternation, because you don't walk into a bank and cash a check for $500,000 and take 100,000 of it in cash without raising some eyebrows. And so the banks that were involved with all of this fraud, there is so much money being sloshed around. People had to know about this. They had to suspect that something was wrong, and there were just too many people involved that didn't do anything about it. And ultimately, let me add one other group that I think has got a problem, and that's the Somali community itself. They're very tightly, they're a tight-knit society. When you've got $1 billion, there's no way that most of them didn't know that something like this was going on.
Well, and there's going to be so much that found out as we go. Sir, I am out of time. I love that you were on the show today. With all that happened this weekend, I look and said, oh, we've got him. He's coming up on Tuesday. I'm so happy to have here. I thank you. Keep on it. Go and enjoy some golf. Enjoy some nice weather. Keep watching this stuff. I'm sure we'll be talking about it in 2 weeks.
I think this story is going to go on for quite a while.
I appreciate you, Mr. Congressman Gil Gutknecht.